Welcome to the This Is Money podcast. I'm Simon Lambert, and you're listening to a special bonus episode of the podcast, where I'm joined by Alexander and Marcus Blunt, the brothers behind the ski package holiday Heidi. Now, you may have been watching the Winter Olympics on the television. You may have been looking at those snow-covered mountains and those blue skies and thinking that it sounds and looks quite a lot better than grey and rainy Britain. I know I have, but regular listeners to the podcast will know that it doesn't take much to get me thinking about going snowboarding. However, if some of those people do decide to go away, there's a fair chance that some of them will be going with Heidi, because Alexander and Marcus have built what is Britain's second biggest ski package holiday firm, and it was only founded in 2018. So, seeing as the Winter Olympics were on, we thought it would be a good time to speak to them and find out a little bit more about how they built the business, how they turned their idea into reality, and what they learned along the way. Welcome to the podcast, both of you. Thank you very much for joining us. Marcus, first, why don't you tell us about the idea behind Heidi? How did it come about?
Yeah, hi, Simon. Thank you. It's something which I think has been niggling away at both of us for a long time. I think, you see, we've always been mad about what we do. We grew up in the north of Scotland in a little cottage on a snowy hillside. Well, it was not snowy all the time, but snowy a fair chunk of the time. And with a Norwegian mum who was sort of, proudly Norwegian and passionate about all things being outside in the snow. And so we've always been sort of kind of obsessed with sort of skiing and snow since an early age. And I think that was only sort of cemented when we moved to Norway as teenagers and got to sort of ski loads there. And it just became sort of part of life. And then we sort of moved back to the UK and started work and started sort of organising our own ski trips. Having come from a place where it was so easy, living in Norway, you could just get on the bus and go skiing at your local slope, for example, to then it being this sort of enormous logistical challenge to solve, became on one side kind of frustrating, on the second side kind of enjoyable for me because I'm a total nerd. But we ended up sort of pouring loads of energy and trying to figure out what the right trip for us was. You see, we were busy with kids, jobs, we couldn't go away for a week, the sort of typical sort of Saturday holiday that the market was offering. So we happened to doing it ourselves. And so there's one holiday in particular where my spreadsheet was excellent, but also kind of out of control. And sort of dawned on me that it was completely ridiculous that there wasn't technology that existed in order to make this super easy. That's where the idea came from. So it was that one trip in particular where I was organising it for a holiday. There were 4 of us going away to Austria, and we were comparing all the different flights and accommodation and transfer options and ski pass prices and transfer times and these things to get the perfect holiday. And it was all very sort of logic driven, and I figured that's what technology could do well. So that's kind of where the idea came from initially.
In terms of those kind of putting together a trip difficulties, what were you doing in terms of thinking, okay, what period of time can we go over, where can we go, that kind of thing? How complicated was it for you to do? Because how do you then put all of that into an engine that comes up with it?
I'm gonna get insight into my nerdiness now, but at this point we knew we wanted to go to Austria. I think if I think back to this one holiday, we knew we wanted to go to Austria. We're living in London at the time. So pulled together a spreadsheet where I sort of chucked in all the different flight numbers into, Munich and Salzburg and Innsbruck. Also compared all the transfer times to all the different resorts and scored all the resorts based on certain things that we were going to be interested in. The quality of the après, the likelihood of there being fresh snow, etc. The lift pass prices, so we could sort of then work out what the sort of the cost per ski hour could be, and the amount of skiing per annual day used, for example. And it sort of generated this bunch of sort of nerdy metrics in order, sort of, the sort of bespectacled me could say, aha, this is the holiday for us. But in there were just rows and rows of flight data, of transfer data, different accommodation options, and so on and so forth. And of course, I did this all by hand, so it took vast amounts of time that I probably should have been spent doing other things. The upside was we actually got a really good trip. It was fantastic. Brilliant. Absolutely banging holiday. And so I was feeling really quite pleased with my spreadsheet, but probably not so pleased with the amount of time I poured into it, and just felt that, look, technology can do this. We can figure out how to connect that inventory and build a sort of a packaging engine and price comparison engine that way without the need for manually inputting all these different options into a spreadsheet.
Alexander, what were you both doing at the time in terms of jobs and work? You were presumably both working full time.
Both working full time. both the two very young kids, both the kids born in 2018, the year the company was founded as well. But we were in the travel sector. And so we had that context. And I think that sort of shone a light with how crazy this problem was, is that we were passionate skiers and we were in the travel industry. And even we were finding it a complete pain to book these holidays. So there had to be another way. And I think sort of Marx was coming at it. So Marx is very technical, complete geek, but was coming at it from that angle. And when he was sort of explaining the problem to me, so the way I saw it was that skiers don't search where they want to go. They search how they want to go. That's how a skier thinks of a skiing holiday. They don't necessarily say, I want to go to this resort on those dates. They say, I want my ski holiday to look like this. I've got £1,500. I want a short transfer. I want to go on a long weekend. So flights on Thursday night, good après, hotel with a pool on the piste. Where can I go? And most skiers don't mind if that's in Italy or in France or in Austria or in Switzerland. If it meets those requirements, they're happy to take a punt on it. I was seeing from that side. I was working in the tour operator world, and Marcus was far more sort of in the data-led product side. And we came together and started this exciting mission.
And I suppose the issue is, going on what you've said there, is that if you're the kind of person who knows skiing or snowboarding and goes regularly and does trips and treats it like something that you just do normally, you might not be able to just drive to the local mountain, because unfortunately we live in a country where you can't do that. But if you're trying to maximize the amount of ski trips that you do every year, and you've been doing that every year for a long time, you know where to go. You know what resorts to go to. You know which airport you need to fly into to get to a certain place, and you know where's cheap to fly to, and you know where you can get a cheap hire car and all those other things. But if you don't know all of those details, then you're a bit like, And then you're the kind of person that people ask those questions. I get it all the time. Where should I go? I want to do this and I want to go for this long. And it's like, I need to basically minimize the amount of time that I'm out of work and maximize the amount of time that I'm there. You know, how can I do it? And so I suppose if you then build that kind of recommendation into it as well, then that helps people understand where they should go. But how did you turn it from idea into something that actually worked? Developing the website, the actual nuts and bolts of getting that business off the ground. I think lots of people are really interested in that kind of thing, because they're like, I could have had that idea, but I don't know how I would have turned it into reality.
Yeah, well, we started really small. I think with all big problems, you've got to start small. And I think also, you know, as Alexander said, we both had young kids, mortgages, and weren't really in a place where we could just sort of risk it all. And to think about what the sort of the key risks were. And so first of all, it seemed kind of obvious that this sort of business should exist, and we're surprised that it didn't. And so wanted to figure out how to sort of test some of the risky assumptions in it. You know, maybe people didn't want to go away for 3 nights. And maybe the market was just there for 7-night holidays, and it existed because that's what people wanted. And so we first figured out how to test whether or not people wanted this sort of level of customization that we thought they did. And so that was done through some pretty basic landing page tests, and we were able to validate that. And then I suppose the next sort of risky assumption was, well, maybe we're not able to do this and get the supply that people would want, and maybe we can't get the economics to work, and we can't get the holidays at the right price. And so this is where our travel industry expertise and contacts came in. We're able to figure out how to test that and sort of pull together sort of dummy packages without actually having to set up a company yet, to test appetite against them. So we're able to do all these things without actually having to take the plunge to set up a company. It involved a bit of time and thinking. But we were able to get to a place where we were confident that people wanted this sort of service, and we were confident that we could get the supply and the prices that were right. And then that sort of makes the next step much less scary, because you've kind of validated some of those first assumptions. So I think that's how we started. Alexander, why don't you go and explain what happened next?
So we ran the company in its first season when we were a fully registered company with an ATO license alongside our full-time jobs. And that was definitely the most full-on and intense year, because as I said, we both had kids born in 2018 as well. And that was really
How difficult was it to get an ATO license?
It was easier then than it is now post-COVID, but it was a very small license. I think, what was it, Marcus, 500 passengers?
Yeah.
And so that was quite straightforward. Again, we had the industry experience to understand sort of what kind of systems and processes you need to automate the stuff which we couldn't stuff manually. And that year there was, we had to prove the assumptions in like a test form, was really to prove the assumptions in the actual business case. You know, can we not just sell a holiday, but operate a holiday and do so profitably? And we almost sort of made a pact to each other, didn't we, Marcus, that if we did, it was £500,000 of sales. If we do £500,000 of sales in the first winter, we're going to quit our jobs. and go all in. And we actually did that. It was by late January. And then we had to operate the holidays through February and March. But that just gave us the confidence to then quit our jobs, do a small friend and family fundraising round in order to hire a developer and go from there. But it was a really intense year.
Do you remember how it felt when you sent your first people off on a holiday?
Yeah. Our first booking was really magical, actually. I think that was one of the lessons as well. We've learned that we can build an amazing system with loads of automations, loads of customization, but you still need good people and good suppliers behind the scenes. And that first booking, it was a fully automated booking. It wasn't automated, it was booked online. It wasn't sort of booked over the phone with Marcus and myself, it was booked online. And we were high-fiving each other. It was amazing. It came in the evening. And we thought, this is brilliant. This is easy. And then within about 2 hours, we got an email from the customer saying, well, he had like size 15 feet. Could we guarantee that the ski high shop had boots big enough for him? And we called, I think I spent a whole afternoon calling every single ski high shop in Chamonix to find the one. And so I guess that was it, right? Sort of the highs of the first booking to the lows of, oh my God, even going to be able to operate this holiday because the customers got ginormous feet. But we did. We got them away.
I love the fact that you've got that automated high-tech holiday booking engine that then ends up with you phoning around ski hire shops and adding the personal touch to it. Did you get good feedback from people on those holidays that year? Did you actively try to seek it out from them?
We did. We've always been really obsessed around seeking feedback. So our NPS post-return holiday form is pretty much unchanged since then, where we ask the same questions, seeking the same feedback, which is giving us data points, but also allowing the customer to give free text as well. And so we obsess over that. And I think our Trustpilot account was set up then as well. And so, yes, absolutely. It's absolutely key to what we do. And just going back to that side, it's the success of the business. It's not just on the customer side, it's the supply side, you know. Now we know which ski high shops in Chamonix have size 15 boots. And we've learned all that knowledge. And so that enables us to scale and automate all those customer requests as well. But that takes years to build.
Not soon after you started the business, something fairly major happened that caused obvious problems for the travel industry, COVID. How far in were you when that hit in 2020? And how far had you got through sending people on holiday that season? Because it hit halfway through the ski season, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So at that point, we'd had the first year, sort of our year -1 was the year Alexander was just talking about, where we were sort of doing it so on the side of other jobs. So just being Alexander whilst also working full-time elsewhere. Following that, we then sort of quit our jobs and sort of started building a really sort of small team. We were doing so well. We were sort of on track to smash our targets. We set our big goals on track. And then obviously COVID came along and ruined the party somewhat. And it was an unbelievably stressful thing to go through, as I think it was for many other people and also lots of other businesses. But first of all, we got a pretty hardcore lesson in crisis management, because we was this young business, pretty sort of immature, figuring out how to operate. And then we had to figure out how to repatriate all of our customers, make sure everyone's taken care of, get them home safely. And whilst obviously all the information was changing so quickly and countries were going into lockdown like dominoes. So that part was incredibly stressful. And then, because it happened in sort of mid to late March, wasn't it? Mid-March, wasn't it? And so we had about sort of a good month's worth of holiday still to operate, which we couldn't. And so you had to work with, our suppliers to get all the refunds in order to refund our customers and so on. And of course, that was an existential crisis for a young business. We were sort of staring into the abyss. But again, worked really. We learned the importance of having really good communication with your customers. Being sort of honest and transparent about what's happening, so that they are reassured. And then the importance of having good relationship with your suppliers, who can work hard to get that money back from them to refund to their customers. And we kind of got to the end of that at the first phase of the COVID crisis, where it was like, okay, well, we've got everyone home, and then everyone who wanted a refund has got one. And we know how much money we had left at the bank, and we could sort of just batten down the hatches and get through. And we figured, we could have tried to trade our way through and say, well, maybe we can trade our way out of this and keep selling holidays. But figured, there's probably not much point in that, because we're probably just selling holidays we're going to have to cancel next year. That doesn't make much sense. So instead, we used the time to totally rebuild the technology in particular, which was, everything before had been a very sort of minimum viable product. We used the time to look at everything we'd learned from that year and a half of operating and totally rebuild the technology. work really hard on our supplier value proposition, and work on our brand, work on our sort of customer proposition and processes and so on. And so at the time, it was a really, really challenging time. It felt like we were sort of being punished pretty hard. But in fact, what we'd been given was a strange gift of time where we could work on the business without having to worry about operating it and hit targets and operate holidays and so on. And it stood us in really good stead. And we use that time quite wisely. And I think as a result of that, we've been able to came out of COVID and have grown really, really nicely since then. And I put that down to the fact that we had this 12-month period where we could just work uninterrupted on building a great product.
Alexander, how long did you not sell holidays for? And was there ever a point where you did actually think, maybe this just isn't going to work and we should get out of the holiday business?
There were definitely those moments. It was March 2020 that we had to repatriate all the customers. The next winter, we didn't operate any holidays. We actually only made the decision to get going again in August 2021 when we brought team back from furlough. And it was this amazing, special time because the team had been so committed. We were so lucky with the team that we hired back then and they came back. So that was almost a year and a half. But I think what people forget, when you look back at COVID, it was all just one blurry period of stressed weirdness. But it actually reared its head again in December 2021 with the Omicron variant. And for us, I think that was actually possibly the scariest moment because we had made a commitment to ourselves to not start operating holidays and selling them until we were confident we could operate them. And we were very lucky that COVID happened in March because had it happened in December, had to cancel the refunds holidays, there'd be no Heidi now. And what actually happened, if you remember, Omicron came, the variant came super quickly in mid-December, and the Swiss and the French all banned the Brits from coming. So we had to cancel every single Christmas and New Year's Eve holiday. And that was really stressful because we knew what could happen and we made a promise to ourselves not to start the business again until we were confident. But thankfully, after, I think by the 5th of January, everyone realized that Omicron was literally just a runny nose and there was nothing to worry about. So then the borders opened up again and we had an amazing winter from then. It was stressful operating the holidays with all the entry requirements and jabs and vaccine rules and so on and so forth. But that's the thing with skiers. They are so desperate to go. If there's an opportunity to go skiing, and even if it's a bit complex, where you need to have your booster jab and have a certificate for entering here and a different one for there, skiers will do that. And we were there to help them. And we actually had a great winter from then.
I mean, I remember going away we went away in January 2020. That was the last time we went away. And then it was 2 years out, right? So we couldn't go to the mountains until January 2022. And then I remember the Omicron thing, and I remember it looking like it was going to scupper it. We were going to Austria, me and my wife, and then I got COVID like 3 weeks before, and I was like, oh, you're joking. And I was fine to go. But when we went, we had to wear masks to get on the ski lift, which was a bit weird, wearing a mask on a chairlift, I must admit. You'd have to put your mask on to get on the lift, and then everyone would get on the lift and they'd take the mask straight back off. But they were doing the people working on the lifts a favour by going, yeah, all right, I'll play with it. I'll put the mask on and go on. But I think to your point of skiers being committed, but also like Britons just full stop were really committed to going on holiday, weren't they? People had their fingers burned and a lot of people had holidays cancelled, discovered they couldn't go to places, rules got changed, they were going somewhere they couldn't go there. But demand was very strong, wasn't it, for booking holidays at the time?
It was, yeah. And I think it's, holidays are so important to so many people and rightly so. And I think ski holidays especially so because everyone needs escapism, right? And also everyone needs to go and connect with their friends and family in a way that is kind of hard to do in the sort of the busyness of day-to-day life. And so I think people need that, and especially after the couple of years we had with COVID, people were just desperate to get out and have a good time, have some fun. Either in the mountains and be skiing and feel that exhilaration, or just being somewhere with their friends and family where they can sort of switch off from life and connect with them in a way that's hard to. So I think people have this people really prioritize that, and rightly so. So the demand was very, very strong coming out of COVID. Yeah.
Once you'd got things back up and running, and were fairly confident that you were going to be able to actually send people on holidays they're meant to be going to, and something else wasn't going to rear its head. Was that the point when it became time to really start building the brand and marketing Heidi?
It was. We still had such great belief in the business because it'd been such success from the start. Even with at the very beginning, our website was very, very ropey, and as is the case when you're sort of starting from nothing. And our customer feedback had been so good, and so we had such great confidence and belief in the business, and we were able to get through COVID and get through that first of Omicron year, and had done so well, and so we were feeling really confident in our prospects. And by that point, I think we felt like, well, surely that is the back of COVID now. Now there's nothing holding us back. Now we can really start to invest a bit more in the team and in growing awareness with the company. And that's when we rebranded the company as well. So we were called Ski Zoom previously, which was I don't know quite experienced naming companies. It's probably the worst part of starting a company because if everything's taken or extremely expensive. so Ski Zoom is where we started, but it's not a name which we were particularly happy with. And so felt the need to sort of rebrand and give ourselves a fresh start with a brand that we felt represented us more closely. And so that was the point there in whatever the year was, the year after COVID. They went for it, hammer and tongs.
Alexander, how have you built up that customer base? How have you chosen to market yourself and to reach other customers? Is it using traditional display advertising? Is it using social media? Is it using word of mouth and getting customers to tell other people?
It's all of that. It's a complete mix. And when you're fast growing, you've got to be in all the places. And I think we're still learning around getting the sort of strategy right around top of funnel advertising. Where you're reaching people who aren't necessarily thinking about booking a ski holiday. But in the early days, you're right, the performance channels work really well because you've got engaged people going to Google saying long weekend ski holidays in March or Easter family holidays. And so that's how we reached customers in the early days. And that's still a core part of our strategy. But we've got a fantastic team managing all the social channels. Obviously, AI and those other platforms is an opportunity for us as well. Repeat customers, we do really well from. We genuinely care about delivering amazing ski holidays. And I think our customers experience that, whether they get in touch with us or not. Because even if you book purely online, we still want to give a really good pre-holiday experience, giving all the right information at the right time. And then when you're on your holiday, you want to make sure that all that faff from the first day around where do I pick up my ski passes, the ski hire shop, where's the ski school meeting points, we try and deliver a really good experience there through our platform. And that drives a good repeat rate and a good referral rate and a high NPS score. But if you want to keep growing at the rates which we're growing at, you've got to be in all the places and have a really great team that thankfully we have owning it.
And what would be your advice to somebody trying to scale up a business? How would you say to them to get customers in the door? Would it be to try and do all those things, or would it be to kind of start smaller and then build them up?
You have to start small, and you have to have complete relentless focus on your core unit economics as well, because you can easily just blow your budget and be left with nothing. So start small, start in the performance marketing space and go from there, because that's often where the most engaged users are and where you can reach them. But that's where we started and it worked well for us. Would you agree, Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's start small and see if you can find the people who care most about what it is you're offering and the problem that you're solving for them. And, figure out whatever place that is, whatever the right media is for that, and start there and then build out only when you've got confidence that the unit economics are looking good and healthy.
Are there any mistakes that you've made along the way that you tell people to avoid making?
Gosh, there's probably quite a few. So I think on that, it is, as I mentioned, it's very easy. With sort of marketing these days, it's so easy to go ahead and deploy budget and spend it very quickly. And there are definitely times when just with a sort of a loose setting here and there, you've come in the next day and you think, oh, blimey, how much of that? How much has been spent overnight? And so I think, especially if you're starting out, you need to be really, really laser focused on how your marketing campaigns are set up, where you've got some total trust in who it is that's managing them. Again, if it's to people who are starting out, know enough about everything, because you don't need to be an expert in everything, but you need to know enough about everything, because experts don't always have all the right answers. And so it'd be quite easy for experts to make recommendations or make changes that actually don't work out for you in your business. And so I think it's really important that founders, particularly in the early stages, know enough about everything, as they can hold the people who advise them and work with account as well.
And have you both always had a purpose in mind for the business? Has there always been a kind of in your head a vision of, right, we're doing this because we want to run a business, we want to make money, but ultimately there's a reason why we're doing this?
Definitely. And ironically for myself, I didn't join this because I wanted to make money. I had a really good job working with great colleagues that I loved. But I myself was so frustrated as to how hard it was to book the ski holiday that was right for me. And that's really the purpose. It's like, we want to make it easy for people to get out of the mountains, because we believe the mountains are an amazing place that when you're there, you have experiences that make you healthier and happier, where you can connect with your family, with your friends, or just have some time to yourself. And it shouldn't be as difficult as it was. As Marcus said, like, we were so lucky growing up in the heart of Scotland, where we could go off the Lech ski centre on a Saturday, or in Oslo, where we could jump on the tram and be skiing within an hour from our house. We want it to be almost that easy for everyone in the UK. And so we've always been purpose-led. It's something we're so passionate about. And I think, like, what we've learned as well is that passion and mission isn't just shared between Marcus and myself. And as we've grown, we're based in Bristol, which is, it's got a really sort of active outdoorsy population. Loads of people want to come work for us. And that's amazing, because also people want to be part of this mission around making it easy to get people out of the mountains, to enable people to have 2 trips a year on their budget. So very much so. It's absolutely sort of core to who we are and what we do. Just the mountain's an amazing place. If we can get more people out there, the better.
Because there is a perception in Britain that skiing is for rich people. It's prohibitively expensive. Now, obviously, we can't, drive to the mountains in the same way. You can if you're in Scotland, or maybe even in Northern England. But you're very much reliant on the snow, and Scotland's having a great season at the moment, but that's the first time in a long while. But even for those people in France, in Germany, in Italy, who don't live close enough to get to the mountains in a couple of hours, it's not necessarily considered an elite pastime, skiing and snowboarding. There is a culture of, you just all go cram into an apartment for a week and you have a great time. Is that something that you want, that kind of spirit that you want to bring to people?
Yeah, so I completely agree. I think so. First of all, of course, skiing can be an eye-wateringly expensive holiday, but it doesn't have to be. And that's sort of one of the things which drives us as well. And that's one of the reasons why we sort of set up the technology and the inventory access to in the way that we have. Because it's all technology based, we can connect all the inventory that's out there, which means that we don't just have to surface the big name resorts, which might have more expensive lift passes or more expensive accommodation prices and so on and so forth. We're able to connect to all sorts of resorts that may not necessarily be heard of. And so I myself, I'm often like looking at the sales report and get such a kick when I've seen a family of 4 who've bagged an absolutely amazing half-term deal going to a small family resort in Italy that even I hadn't heard of before starting the company, for example. And I love that, because these people I know would not have found this holiday had they not been on Heidi. They've got themselves an amazing deal. They're going to have an incredible time away as a family in the mountains for an excellent price. And that's the technology working to deliver our purpose. And so, yeah, I get such a kick out of that when I see those bookings on the report.
So can you get people away for a long weekend for the price of a city break?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, you can. And we do. And you got to be smart. There are some good options. Poland, Zakopane's got great regional flights into Krakow, and then there's a coach down, and there's incredible good value skiing there. And when you're there, the town's great value, great food. There's destinations all over Europe. And again, our system just pulls those magical destinations together. And I think, to the point, it's so important to us that we can break down that narrative that skiing is an elite sport, because it's not. And that narrative needs to be broken. And it's something that, again, is sort of we're driven by, and that's why we partner with Snow Camp, a charity that does amazing things getting inner city kids from disadvantaged backgrounds onto the slopes and through programs there. And as Marcus said, we look at the sales report. And I think another interesting stat sort of actually came out of COVID, where there was rife inflation, and it was my winter's right, 22, 23. Our average order value actually went backwards. So you're there in inflation, when inflation's 8%, but the holidays that we were selling that year were cheaper than the prior year. Why was that? Because people were coming to our site and they were going for 5 days, not 7 days. They were going self-catering, not hotel. They were sort of going to a different resort. And I think that's just brilliant.
Before we finish up, we'll go for a few actual kind of, skiing questions and things like that. Where would you tell people to try going? Where would you recommend they try going that isn't just the usual option?
I think it depends on what they're doing. So I'll use my recent example. I went away with my parents, who are 72, 73, and my two daughters, who are 5 and 7. We went away for a long weekend 2 weeks ago, and we went to Seefeld in Austria, which is just the perfect destination for like a multi-generational ski holiday. My dad could ski a bit. Mum likes to sit in a mountain restaurant, but Seefeld's a beautiful town, pedestrianised streets, cobbled lanes, horse-drawn carts. There's an amazing, it's called the Olympia Bad, big spa area where you can go swimming. And it's a small ski area, perfect for families, perfect for kids. We went for 3 days. We had the most incredible time. Would I go there with my mates? Probably not. It's hard for me to recommend one place because my goal every year is to try somewhere new. I always try a new resort every single year because, we sell over 350 destinations. So I want to try them all out eventually. So I think I'll call out my Seefeld holiday, which was a great shout. We had an amazing time. How about you, Marcus?
Well, I'm probably going to sort of plug where it all started, and it'll be Norway. And the answer to that question is it depends what you're after, right? So not everyone wants the same from a holiday. Would I recommend a sort of a quiet Norwegian resort to a group of lads going out for a big boozy trip? I don't think I would. But for families, absolutely. And the reason for that is at the moment, it's actually really great value because the krona's quite weak. The slopes are quieter. It's not a stressful place to ski at all. Very rarely do you get queues. The quality of things are great. The mountains are smaller, which some people may say is not a good thing. But if you're skiing with young kids, it's a really good thing because it makes it much less intimidating. So I think for people with kids or people going, who've only been once or twice, I'd give Norway a go.
Yeah, never underestimate the joy of skiing a small resort and finding a good run and lapping it.
Yeah. I think back, it's the whole point with it, sort of, with skiing being affordable as well. Especially if you're relatively new to it, or you got kids, you don't need 600 kilometers of feast. You're actually probably going to have just as good or even a better a time in a smaller place with your kids. And I think back to for us, Alexander, where it all started. On a sort of the little sort of ski hills in Norway, they just got one lift, and we'd ski that all day. As a 14-year-old, that's all you need. So,
I mean, I used to do the same thing on a dry ski slope. So
exactly. But of course, would I want to ski the same run all day now as a 43-year-old? Probably not. But it's just finding the right thing that's right for the group, isn't it?
Okay, so you've done the family recommendations, but you've been allowed to go away without your families, without your children.
Yeah,
you're allowed to go away with your friends for a long weekend. Where would you recommend someone goes?
Somewhere a bit more cultural. The Olympics one in Italy at the moment. What an advert for our sector that is. The Dolomites, which is held in Cortina, go a bit further north to the resorts on the Sella Ronda with your mates. It's not wild après, but it is so fantastic. Incredible scenery. You can set yourself a good challenge to ski the Sella Ronda in a day, stopping off at the most incredible mountain huts, serving the most incredible pizza. It's good value. It's really, really good value. So if it's something a bit more civilized with good sort of challenging skiing where you want to crew the kilometers, I'd say give that a go. That was my new destination last year and absolutely loved it. I think if it's all about the party, Folie Douce resorts in France are good, but for me, there's no comparison for Austria. They just know how to do it. The beer's still cheap. The schnapps is still good value. Everyone's dancing on the tables. It's just an incredible experience, but 7 nights of that for me can get a bit much. So I guess it's all horses for courses.
Well, I suppose the advantage of that for those of us in our 40s is if you start early, you can finish early and fall into bed by 9:30. Marcus, what about your recommendation? If you're going out with some friends with maximum skiing.
I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet. I talked about the spreadsheet and the holiday they gave us, and the destination we ended up with was Sölden in Austria. And so I'm going to go with that because it worked brilliantly for us, and I was going with a group of mates. The skiing is fantastic. It's like if the vertical drop is enormous. So the runs are they're proper leg burners from top to bottom over sort of 2,000 meter vertical drop. It is just fun and Austrian and I'm serious and a good time. That would be my one. But it's so hard just to recommend one place, right? Because, when you're out in the mountains, everywhere's good. Everywhere's good. When there's a ski lift and there's mountains and there's snow, it doesn't matter. Everywhere's good, I think anyway.
What next for Heidi? Have you got plans to move in to other areas of the holiday sector beyond the winter holidays?
Yeah, we do. So what we believe as a company is that everyone's healthier and happier and spending time in the mountains. Obviously, so the number one way we try and get close to achieve that mission now is through ski holidays. But the mountains are amazing in summer as well. And so we sort of started our sort of pilot offering for summer holidays last year, and that was successful. So we're looking to build on that this year. And so there's still sort of a lot of work to do there in order to expand the product, but we're really excited about that. And we think there's a lot of opportunity there. Of course, with we operate in the UK and Ireland as well. So we'll of course consider other source markets that could work for us. Maybe there are, maybe there aren't. But I think for the immediate future, I think there's a lot more to do here in ski for our UK customers, and we're really excited about figuring out how to get more people out there in the summer as well.
And Alexander, final question: do you ever have customers coming to you trying to go to even further flung places that you don't even offer on the site?
We do. And I'd love to get more destinations live. Currently we just have the main European destinations live, but we don't have North America. We don't have Japan. We don't have Georgia. Loads more places to get live. But I think going back to the point Marcus said, we have to stay really focused on what we're doing and do it well. That's what we're going to keep doing. So unfortunately, we tell those customers we can't help get your way to Armenia or to Georgia. But have you considered one of these other 360 fantastic resorts in Europe that we have? But watch the space.
Georgia looks amazing, but I don't know how you're going to phone up all the ski shops in town asking whether they've got size 15 boots. Alexander, Marcus, thank you very much for joining us on the This Is Money podcast.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for listening. Join us next time. We'll be back for the normal podcast. Goodbye.